Okay, so we remove these 7 bolts that go around the extension tail shaft, the transmission, and then from the main body. Then we pulled back on it. It seemed to be hanging up, so I kept moving the parking lever in and out, although it should come out no matter what. And then I turned the tail shaft, and I could feel it hitting maybe a little bit. So I did it a couple times, I guess, to line up the clutches, and then pulled straight back, and it came right off. Okay, next thing to do will be to get the bell housing bolts and the flywheel bolts, which means we'll have to take this flywheel cover off and hopefully spin it and get the bolts. And and we had taken the oil filter off to get past the motor mount on this side. Like the exhaust flange, it was actually hanging down below the exhaust flange, and the exhaust flange even caught, so the oil had to come off. We need to put that back on now, temporarily, just to protect those threads. But then we should be able to yank the transmission, main transmission piece off. Okay, well, remove the starter. You have to remove the starter to be able to get the plate off, so you can get to all the bolts and so you can separate. There's 9/16 and 5/8 bolts, and then the really small ones are 7/16 on the plate. Also loosened up the other bolts on the transmission, and there's one on the back side on the engine side. One other thing of importance, maybe, at least for me it was, is this is bolted to the engine, but it's going into the transmission, and I'm pretty sure that that is the sensor, crank sensor, so flywheel sensor. So I undid the bolts. They were 1/2 inch or Allen's, and there's a bolt underneath there too. I wanted that so it's free and nothing could, well, God willing, nothing can break when we split the two, because everything can move. The next thing to do is get to the flywheel bolts themselves, spin the flywheel, undo those, and then we'll be able to split the transmission from the engine. Okay, so here's the bolt on the dampener. We used 1 1/4 inch socket on that with a big breaker bar, so we could turn and hold the flywheel so we could get the bolts off. They're really little bolts, and that's not even maybe a 1/2 inch long, and there was only 4 of them, which surprised me. I thought there'd be at least 6, but as you can see on the converter, there's only 4. Once we got those off, we were able to pull the trans back and pop it off. This is a little strange. I'm wondering if that's leakage out of the drain plug, or if water just puddled up in there somehow and stayed. In any case, the transmission is out, ready to be disassembled at a later date. Engine first, because you need to order parts for it, and I want to see how good or bad it is. Another thing I saw the other day was, along with the paint on the heads, there's also paint right there on the block. So I'm wondering if this wasn't all junkyard stuff that got, or if it went to a machine shop. Seems kind of strange though, because there's a lot of rust and the paint's all burnt off. But we shall see.